right, folks. Yes, I changed it up this time because you know what? I'm ready for a break and I want to have some fun. I'm going to start changing these intros up. Since we talked this history of film stuff, I'm going to find different stuff that I'm going to put up. I think I got one for next week. I think I'm definitely going with Alfred Hitchcock from Alfred Hitchcock Presents. All right, folks. So, yes, we know Bob Saget has passed. But we are not doing a hat trick on talking about dead celebrities, okay? We've already done two of them. We got to get off that, or at this rate, that's all we're going to be talking about for 2022. So let's get away from that. So I am NB Geek, NB Geeks Let's Talk. This is our 10-4 roundtable, history of films. We're going to the 60s. Sorry about my voice. I either had a cold, my wife and I either had a cold or we got Omicron. We don't know. We didn't go get the test. We just fucking took some medicine, stayed home. I'm fine. She's fine. I'm just having a little bit of throat issues. But thankfully, I do have, and they are not sponsoring me, although if they did, I'd love them to. I am taking Ricola to help with the voice. With that, let me introduce my wonderful panel here. She took the lead last week, did a masterful job of it. She's strong. She's a geek. She's got kind of a Buffy Faith kind of thing going on, maybe a little Starbuck. Kind of a rounded. Alyssa AVP.
Hey, everybody.
And then, of course, we've got her boyfriend, although we don't hold that against her. The man who makes Twitter trolls cry and mops the floors with their tears. Jack Beers!
Woo!
Hello.
Nice glasses, by the way, buddy.
Hello.
Before we get into that, I thought it was interesting to find out that was Olivia Wilde.
Yeah. Olivia Wilde played Gozer in this Afterlife movie. Yeah, but she was uncredited, I think.
Yeah, I think I heard that she was uncredited, but I did look at this. That was her, and I remember the first time I saw her was on House as 13.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Good
Claps
morning,
for the panel.
Watchtower.
Hello.
Hi, Chloe. Hey, Yissy.
Hey, it's all right. So I'm probably going to take a little bit of a back seat on the talking because of my voice. I'm hoping maybe the Ricola and the whiskey will help with it. And just spoiler warning, folks, 2 out of 3 of us may be drinking and smoking weed on the stream. Just a fair warning. So, who wants to start off? You want to start, Jack? Jack?
You go
All right.
first.
Okay, I could start.
Yeah, I think
All
she's
right.
taking the lead a couple of times now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's 3 main movies I want to talk about from the 1960s. There's a bunch of them that I wanted to talk about, but I kind of put them down to shrunk them down to 3. The first one is The Time Machine that came out in 1960. So the Time Machine it started off as a book written by H.G. Wells in 1895. And then eventually CBS picked it up and they did radio broadcasts of it in 1948 and 1950. Eventually the BBC did their first teleplay broadcast of the Time Machine in 1949. But even though it was broadcast, it was never recorded. So there's no recording of it, but the script and some still photos actually survive of when they did it.
So they basically did an unrecorded live stream, basically.
Well, yeah, they broadcast it, but in order to record back then, you had to actually record a monitor with a movie camera. Yeah. And then you'd have to develop the film and all that. So that's how they did it back then. So they didn't do it for everything. So apparently they didn't do it for this teleplay broadcast. And so eventually MGM picked it up and they did their film adaptation, the one I'm talking about, in 1960. And the story, I love the story of it. Takes place in Victorian England, and it's about a guy in the year 1900 who invents a time machine, travels to 1917, 1940, 1966, and 802,701, um, before eventually coming back to 1900. Um, so remember, this was released in 1960. So the first two times were 1970 and 1940, during both of them during the World Wars. Um, and so then in 1966, when they get to that, it's actually 6 years ahead of when the film was released. So this is when he starts speculating, because they're in the middle of a Cold War. And so in 1966, like, a nuclear satellite detonates and it causes a volcanic eruption and it completely destroys the surrounding area.
Yes.
And the time traveler, who in this one his name is George, was able to escape in his time machine just in time, but he ends up going way, way into the future.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so he ends up in the year 802,701, and he emerges, and it's a whole new landscape. It's a whole new landscape, and he realizes that the humans have split into two different species:
Yes.
the Eloi and the Morlocks, right?
Mhm.
So he ends up befriending a female Eloi named Wena, and she takes him to an old library, but he can't read any of the books. They're so old they crumble in his hand. So he tries to go back in time, but then when he goes back to his time machine, the Morlocks steal his time machine. So he manages to defeat the Morlocks and retrieves his time machine and returns back to 1900, where he tells his friends the entire story, and of course nobody believes him.
Yes. Yes.
My
I
favorite parts. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I didn't see the original one in the '60s. I saw the one Guy Pearce did,
Oh,
which
the more
I
recent
actually,
one.
yeah, I
1988.
and I
Okay.
and I generally enjoyed that because I very much enjoyed the book. I've read the book.
Yes.
You know, H.G. Wells was, I think, really at the time, between him and Mark Twain, were really the only two that did kind of a time travel, the science fiction around those areas, because Mark Twain did a Yankee in King Arthur's Court, and
Mm-hmm.
then you had Time Machine. So this
Mhm.
was really a breaking new ground
It was.
uh, in science fiction.
Yeah,
It wasn't
when the
even
book
called science fiction back then.
yeah when the book first came out, yeah, you're right. Like, science fiction, the idea of it wasn't really grounded. It was just, you had like certain things that you could later on say it's science fiction, and but the genre was really in its infancy at that time.
Yes.
Um, and so like the idea, the idea of a time machine, the idea of people going back in time, going forward and back in time, using a machine, that mostly dates back to this book. It's really popularized now,
Mhm.
with Back to the Future and Avengers Endgame and everything, but it started out with this one story.
If
Mm-hmm.
you
Um,
really think about it, yes, because I don't think you can really think of a book that talked about time travel with a machine. That was really the first book that really went into that.
mhm.
You know,
Yeah,
H.G.
I think
Wells and
before
Jules
that,
Verne's, H.G. Wells and Jules Verne's, just they were just the pioneers of science fiction. I mean,
yeah,
everything that's come after really falls on the shoulders of those two giants. and I'm sure others, but those are the two that really, when you think about it, just stand out the most in what they created.
Oh yeah, and my favorite part of that, both of those like versions of the movie, um, is the time travel sequence where everything around you speeds up, and then like eventually the buildings, you know,
Hmm.
are taken apart, and the roads undo themselves, and I really love how they did that, especially like in the 1960s one with the you see the storefront, and the mannequin on the storefront changes outfits, and then eventually it's a different store, and then like there's no store, and I love it.
Right. I love
Yeah.
that too.
They did a sort of time. It's not. It was a version of time lapse in order to make that effect work.
Hmm.
I
Um,
like what they did in the reboot movie or remake, where it
mhm,
showed you this like rock that slowly erodes away over time.
mhm,
Kind of really, because we know how slow this process can happen, gives you
yes.
just an idea of how long this guy's traveling in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, especially you get to like the year 800,000. Yeah. So I mean, that actually makes sense in a geological point of view. Yeah.
I
The-
thought it was a very beautiful sequence.
It
It
was. It
was like
was.
really. I mean, I get what you're saying for the '60s one. That totally makes sense, and that's a great sequence, and I'm gonna have to watch it at some point. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I like the way that they did that. Just that slow erosion.
Hmm.
It was very interesting.
It was. So the 1960 movie cost $829,000 to make, and it earned 2.6 million at the box office. So it made some money.
Hmm.
There was later an audio drama of the book featuring Leonard Nimoy and John Delancey in the 90s, and then of
Really,
course you have the remake.
Yes. It
I
also won
thought
an
that
Oscar too.
for what best visuals.
Best effects, yes, in 1960, yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Because I had,
yeah,
I had it
yeah.
too.
So
Of course,
I
you
mean,
had
and
to
that's
research.
that's the time machine. Like I love the story. I love the effects. I love the idea of everything watching everything change around you. Uh, it's such a good movie.
Yeah,
So
the easy way they could have gone around it would have been kind of like in other movies where they just show the clock going forward and forward and forward and forward, and but they showed you visually the
mhm,
changing of the time,
yes,
and I mean
yes,
that really can be impactful.
yeah, I agree. So the next movie I want to talk about is from 1966. It's the Batman movie. I had to talk about this one, of course.
I knew that was
Um,
coming.
Hey, it is the first non-serialized
yes,
Batman movie.
yes, yes, and
It's the first. Adam West was the first.
yeah, yeah. So Batman, like his first the first appearance of Batman was in Detective Comics 27, which was published in 1939. Um, from 1943 to 1946, there was a Batman and Robin daily newspaper comic strip, um, which I thought was interesting. By 1945, as you said, Batman and Robin appeared in the serial, no, in radio drama, The Adventures of Superman. And then after that, there was, or between that, in 1943 and 1949, there was two serial dramas for Batman and Robin. Each serial had about 15 chapters. So
And they
chap,
are, oh my
chapter is
God.
like an episode, basically.
Yes.
Oh God, they're bad too, by the way. They're bad.
Oh,
They have some serious World War II propaganda shit in there.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think they're as bad as the 1964 Andy Warhol version. He made an unauthorized Batman film called Batman Dracula, and there's not much of it that survives today. But the stuff that I've seen, like I this is not good enough for me. I would have to take acid or something for it to, you know.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm just kidding.
Weed, buddy.
But no, I mean that's my point. It's like it's
Yeah.
that trippy.
Well, it was
Um,
interesting because in this Batman movie, she was the third Catwoman. I mean, we'd already had two other Catwomen. She was a completely different Catwoman.
right. Well, she was because of when they filmed this, she was technically the second Catwoman. Um, yeah. So when ABC got the rights to make the Batman television show, they gave the project to 20th Century Fox, who in turn gave the project to William Dozer. Uh, Dozer didn't really know how to approach the series in a serious manner, so he opted for the campy comedy that you see in the show. Um, Now, they had this idea to introduce the series by first releasing a movie, but Fox didn't want to pay for it at first, and so eventually they changed their minds. But by the time they did, the series premiere had already happened, and the show was actually pretty popular. So they were like, okay, we'll do the movie. So right after they finished filming the first season, they turn around and film the movie.
Uh,
Um, and this is where like Lee Meriwether replaces Julie Newmar as Catwoman for the film, and then um, for the last two seasons we have the other woman. I can't remember her name at the moment.
Eartha Kitt.
Oh, thank you, Eartha Kitt.
You was.
And so they eventually paid for it, and filming began April 28th, 1966, and ended May 26th, 1966. That was 28 days of filming straight, and then it was released July 30th, 1966. So about 2 months worth to edit it and put music in it and all the other stuff. It, the movie cost $1.5 million to make, and it made $3.9 million in rentals, no box office in rentals.
really?
Yeah, apparently this was never in actual theaters, but that was the original idea. Was they were going to put it in theaters, and they even had
direct to VHS.
right, and the original the person who was going to originally write the movie thought it was going to be a more serious take than what Dozer was doing. So when he got an idea of what they were doing, he was like, "No, I'm out." And so they had to get another writer. So, but the way that movie is, that you've seen the movie, right?
Jack, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Exactly. That's
Yes. Yes.
that scene. Yeah, that scene where he's trying to get rid of the bomb, and no matter where no matter where he runs, there's like either kids or the woman in the baby carriage, or like a thing like a line of ducks, or a band. There's a band that walks by. I don't know why, and then they all just converge on him.
For all intents and purposes, and I love Batman. I'm a huge Batman fan. I've got 1,000 Batman affiliated comics behind my back right now, and I'm not joking. But I enjoyed this for what it was, and nobody ever, they have even said, Adam Wesley, no, we did not take him seriously. Yes, I'm the Bright Knight, and
Right.
he accepts that, and he accepts this was campy and goofy. It's funny. Something that came later, I found out when I was watching some videos. No one was allowed to hit Batgirl, and Batgirl wasn't allowed to punch people, but she could kick them. That's why she was always getting up on tables and kicking people.
right. And they added Batgirl in the third season because they were losing ratings. Their ratings were going to the tank, so they were like, okay, let's add a chick. Same, they do that with Star Trek a lot.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, so they added Batgirl to the mix, and they stopped doing the two parters with the cliffhanger in the middle.
Yeah. They also here's the thing I found out. Uh, the series was actually bought by another channel. They got the funds for it. They were going to get it.
NBC.
Yeah, and guess why they didn't take it though, Alicia? What do you think the dumbasses over there did?
No!
They tore down the set,
Exactly.
and so rather than rebuild the set, they just canceled it.
Yep. Playing.
Yeah, they're like, yeah,
stupid.
no. If the sets
I mean-
had been there, it would have gone on.
Yeah,
Another couple of seasons.
Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
wait a minute, you're trying to sell a channel, you're trying to sell an IP, and you destroy everything before you've got a deal closed, you fucking morons. What were
Oh,
you
yeah.
thinking?
They weren't.
Oh, yeah. they weren't. So yeah, so unfortunately, we didn't get any more Batman after that. Hmm?
If every time a Star Trek TOS movie was made, they always tore down the goddamn set. Can you imagine how much money they would have saved in all the movies if they had just fucking left the sets alone?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, the original Star Trek sets. Yeah, same with them. They tore all that down and they sent it to shops to like turn into other sets and stuff. Yeah.
Great idea, guys. Great idea.
But yeah, they did the
All
same
right,
with the Batman
what's
sets.
what's your third movie?
Third one is Yellow Submarine that came out in 1968. So just 8 years before the Beatles formed in 1960, right? And within that amount of time, they blew the fuck up. And so around 1963, they made a contract with United Artists for a 3-picture deal. And the first picture was A Hard Day's Night, came out in 1964. It's basically the Beatles running from their fans, kind of like Austin Powers would, later on. The second one was Help, which was them trying to make a recording or whatever like that. It came out in 1965. And then around that time, both of those were successes. And Yellow Submarine was going to be the third, is the third picture. But by this point, the Beatles had started to check out, if you know what I mean. If you watch the Get Back documentary, you see like Ringo's into it, you see Paul's into it, but John's kind of like, I don't know, I don't really want to do any singing. You know what I mean? And George, like, eventually he has a fit and he quits and stuff like that. So like they were all kind of like infighting already before that, and they didn't like the idea of like being like fully in a third movie, but they did like the idea of it being animated, and so they decided to go that route. They were supposed to voice their characters originally, but as I said, they were checking out. So other people ended up voicing them. But the music was
that's a bitch move.
The music was done by them, and they do make an appearance in the end of the movie for like 5 minutes. You actually see them in the, because they're contracted to be in the movie, so they had to be in the movies.
Oh.
So to fulfill that contractual obligation, they actually had them on screen for the last 5 minutes or whatever. The story was based on the song Yellow Submarine, of course. And if you've seen the movie, it is one of the trippiest things I've ever seen. And that is thanks to the film's art director, whose name was Heinz Eldman. I was trying to see like what else he did, but there's like everything else he did I don't recognize. I figure that like I would have seen him in some other artwork, but I found out his stuff would later on like influence the stuff that I thought it was influenced off of, if you know what I mean. That style of animation would like later influences like the animation stuff in Schoolhouse Rock, in Monty Python's like Flying Circus, on Sesame Street, and like a bunch of these other things. And so when it was released to a critical success. Didn't make as much money as the other two, but it came out. They did a couple other movies after that. That was a different contract. And then eventually they broke up in 1970. The end. We all live in a yellow submarine. It's all in the mind.
Yes, we do.
All right, Alicia, your turn.
All right, my first one is Dr. Zhivago from 1965. So this one was shot in Spain during the regime of General Francisco Franco. So they were filming one of these scenes where they were supposed to be doing like a rally kind of protest kind of scene and everything like that around 3:00 in the morning. The people in that area actually heard this, and it woke them up out of a sound sleep, and they hear this protest kind of thing going on, and they actually think Franco has been overthrown.
No way.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. So the secret police came out there to see what was going on, and they actually stayed around watching them film this scene. And that's why certain people in the scene that you see them not singing, so to speak, because there's the secret police right there watching them, saying, are you trying to overthrow Franco? Even though they don't realize that this is the revolution for Russian Revolution. It wasn't this movie actually wasn't shown in Russia, even though it's a Russian film. It wasn't shown in Russia until 1994. So for over 30 years, this movie was not shown in its native country, supposed to be. The soundtrack for this movie made 600,000 copies during the movie's release. So that's kind of remarkable when you think about it for 1965. And the winter scenes, because there's a lot of winter scenes in this movie. I mean, my dad always used to say, if you want to see something that's going to warm you up, watch Dr. Zhivago. That will warm you up. So it's funny when you see this, these scenes are actually filmed in 116 Fahrenheit degree weather. These people are having to wear these heavy, bulky coats.
Hooray!
And they're sweating like pigs. So they have to be all bundled up and everything like that. So the lovely Lara, who is played by Julie Christie. So someone else was going to try out for this part, believe it or not. And now she still lives with this regret. It was Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda was originally going to play the part of Laura. Jane Fonda was going to do it, but she didn't want to settle down in Spain for 9 months. And she says, no, I don't want to do it for 9 whole months. Nah, forget it. So in 2014, she admitted, she says, you know what? I really regret not making that movie. So Jane Fonda was originally going to be recast. So when the movie opened in West Germany in fall of 1966, it was a huge success where it kept playing in the movie theaters until 1967, when they had this huge festival and everything going on. And they had to actually stop production of the film being shown again. Said, hey, time out. We got this big festival. Let's stop the movie being shown in the theater. Let's go back to the festival. Then you guys can put it back in the theaters. Let's see. And the film was produced in 22 different languages. So, like I said, this is a huge, huge movie. I highly recommend you guys check it out if you've never seen it. Lawrence of Arabia is my second film from 1962. So the director who did this, the director, Sir David Leon discovered that the remains, that there's a train tracks that were there that were left behind. When he came there, that they were still there 40 years later, that the original Lawrence had left behind. So the sun had not damaged these train tracks at all, even though there had been a lot of wars and other battles going around that area in the past 40 years. But those train tracks were still intact, untouched, not rusted, none of that. That was still there. It was still perfectly in place. Many of the soldiers that are in this movie are actually real soldiers. They were actually guards for King Hussein of Jordan. He loaned these people. Now, these characters, these soldiers, did not get paid for their service, sadly. They just did their work, went off set, they were done. And Sir Alec Guinness is in this movie. He played a character known as Fascal. And the makeup was so well done that when he was doing this film, when people saw the character Fascal, played by Alex Guinness, now remember, Fascal is Alec Guinness in this case. But when they see this character, they're like, wait a minute, Fascal? They thought he was the real person. People who actually knew the real Fascal, they thought Alex Guinness was this character. He thought that he was real. They thought he was back from the dead, so to speak. Because it was so yeah. And the movie spent 2 years in pre-production before they actually started filming it and everything like that. So they spent 2 years just in the pre-production stages before they started actually working on it. Then they spent another 14 months filming the actual movie in locations in Jordan, Spain, and in Morocco.
I'd like to have gone to Jordan.
Mm-hmm. And the director actually didn't see his first royalty check, believe it or not, folks, for this movie until 1978. So he didn't get his money. He didn't get paid for 16 years until after this movie was made.
Damn.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Uh-huh. And this movie cost...
Hopefully there was a cost of living and inflation adjustment.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
Yep. And this movie cost $15 million in production to make. And at the box office, it made up to $70 million. So it did succeed. And Peter O'Toole, who plays...
in the 60s. Oh, my God.
Yes. And Peter O'Toole...
If you did a conversion of that now for inflation...
Oh, my God. It's...
I mean,
wow.
I could do it. Actually, just for shits and giggles, let me do that. Inflation. See what we got here. Okay. I thought I could spell worth of shit. Okay, there we go. All right, what year did that movie come out?
1962.
Let's see, can I go that far? Oh, yes, I can. 1962. And how much did it make?
70 million.
Damn, it won't let me put anything higher than that.
Oh,
it won't let
okay.
me put 7 million.
Mm.
Wonder why. Anyway, it'd probably be a hell of a. It'd probably be somewhere in the 400 or 500 range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably close to the billions almost, I'm sure.
I mean, by today's standards, yeah.
Yes. And Peter O'Toole, who plays Lawrence in this movie, he actually lost 28 pounds to make this movie. Yes. He lost 28 pounds while making this movie. So that's one way to lose weight and being on these intense heat scenes. I mean, there's a lot of sand in this movie, folks. A lot of sand. Okay. And the third one, I got to... Yes, creepy Anakin.
Couldn't help it.
I know that line, though. Okay, so I got to go to further in my book. I can't go to the third one I had in here, which was Jack took it from me.
Oh, I did? Which one was that?
Time Machine. It's all good.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay. I have trivia in here that you didn't cover, but that's okay. It's all good.
Okay.
So the next one is Breakfast at Tiffany's from 1961.
You know, I saw that movie for the first time about maybe 10 or 12 years ago. My wife and I were going through a time where we were showing each other movies we had never seen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I saw Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and
Ah.
Breakfast at Tiffany's. And we got to the end of the movie and I said, okay, what's the point of the title? She goes, at the beginning, she was eating her breakfast at Tiffany's. I was like, oh. Oh, that's what the title meant. I was like, fuck, because I didn't catch it at first.
Yes, exactly. She does. Audrey Hepburn. So this movie actually won 2 Oscars for Best Music, Original Song, and the Best Music of a Dramatic or Comedy Picture. And Audrey Hepburn's character, Marilyn Monroe, actually considered herself. She tried out for this role at one point. But the thing is, her drama coach said playing a call girl wasn't good for her image. So instead, it went to Audrey Hepburn. But the cool thing is that the song that she sings, Moon River, was specifically written for Audrey Hepburn to sing. So that's the reason why it sounds like, wait, this sounds like it was maybe tailor-made for her. It was. It was tailor-made for Audrey Hepburn. And as we all know, she wears this iconic black dress throughout the film. And they sold it at an auction for $807 at an auction for that dress. There's also a cat in this movie. It's not one cat. It's 9 cats. And even one of those cats actually won a cat equivalent of an Oscar for their role in this movie. And the song Moon River has been recorded more than 500 times. And also, she has this ring that came from a Cracker Jack box that she's having George Peppard look around for and everything like that. So in order to find that particular ring, it wasn't on just one box. They had to open up 200 boxes of Cracker Jacks in order to find that particular ring. Because the main prize... Yes, exactly. So the main prize that they kept finding before they finally found the ring was all these little whistles. So yeah, they had to open through 200 boxes before they finally found the ring. But yeah. Okay. That was my 3. I have others, but yeah.
You know, like there's a bunch of movies that in the '60s that a bunch of them, like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
I have that one in here.
You can do that one, I guess.
One of the ones I wanted to talk about, and unfortunately, because my wife and I have either had a cold or we got Omicron, we didn't get as much research done. But one I do want to talk about that I think is very culturally significant: Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead, it had broke ground in so many areas. One with the fact that they actually had a black man as the lead in a 1968 movie.
Yes.
And I mean, we got the iconic lines, you know, they're coming to get you, Barbara. And I mean, the way the movie played out, and it is literally okay. When we were talking, hello, Milton Knowles. How are you, sir? We are absolutely insane. Just the way we like it. That movie looks so good in black and white. And even though the dead don't look like, you know, the Walking Dead level corpses, this was the foundation that is why you have shows like The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
This is why you have zombies like this, because this was the first time the zombie thing became pen to paper to film. And here you got now, you know, her brother gets killed, and you just have these people walking in these crazy ways, just trying to eat each other. and the infection and stuff goes on, and there's fear, there's uncertainty, and well, we all know how it plays out. It's not a very happy ending. But
Right.
no, Barbara isn't even the main character. The main character is actually what was his name?
Um,
Ben. Ben was the main character, the black man. He was the one who was the most level-headed, knew what to do, knew how to do it, knew what he needed to take care of. And unfortunately, his passing is only because of a mistake. That was the end, but at the end of the day, what the zombie apocalypses became after that were really George R. R. Ramone's. Everything afterwards has pretty much been based off of what he did.
Right. And like that the budget for it was very, very cheap. It cost
Yeah,
$125,000 to make.
the budget was at the high mark, 125,000.
Yeah.
The movie made $30 million.
Yep.
mhm.
And when it first,
we got movies now that would kill to make that.
oh yeah. And when it first came out, the MPAA system, the rating system hadn't yet been in place. So there was kids watching this stuff, and you had like Roger Ebert like bitching about it, like I don't think kids should be watching this because they're not they're not going to be prepared for what they see or whatever. Of course, I saw Night of the Living Dead when I was like 5 with my mom, and it turned out okay.
Yeah, you did.
Wait, what is this? Let's see if I can do this. $1968. What would 30 million be now? God damn it. I gotta find a better calculator. Anyway, it'd be a lot. I mean, to make a thing on a budget of $125,000, very little special effects, but to actually get people going to want to watch this movie. Back then, that was all word of mouth.
Oh yeah.
And to have a horror movie make that much money in the 1960s, shit. We got horror movies now that can't make near that much.
Oh no.
No, they just spend that on the budget only. The effects are just
What
crap.
did you guys, when you guys saw Night of the Living Dead, it was really, for me, I saw it very young, probably 10 or 12. And it was my first introduction into zombies. And it was very interesting because that's what we started to see in the 80s, 90s, passed on modern culture of what we thought a zombie was. So it just kind of fit together. And I say we have to credit George R. Ramone for giving us that.
Oh yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, after that, they made a bunch more.
Yeah, but I don't think that was the first one of the Night of the Living Dead. I'm trying to find my note. Let's see. I think the first one was in the 30s. No, I don't think. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when they wrote this movie, they wrote it under the title Monster Flick.
Yeah, because it was still from the zombie. Okay, yeah, the first zombie movie was made in 1932.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with White Zombie. Yes. Night of the Living Dead. I was thinking they made one of the 30s when we were researching the monster movies. There was one from then, and then this one was the one that they made. That's more modern. They don't consider a remake.
You know, it's interesting because this is really, I mean, obviously they made some other, I mean, like when we were talking about back when we did the history of monster movies, the
Mm-hmm.
Universal ones, while there was the silent film Nosferatu and a couple of other vampire movies, there was still the fact that Dracula was really what became the view of what people saw as Dracula. Same with the Wolfman, same with Frankenstein. So when it came to this character, it became kind of the same way. This is what everybody recognized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, this was the first one, apparently.
But I mean, yeah, like I said, but it is the one that is recognized as the most
Yes.
inspirational, the one that gave rise to basically what we know as the modern um, genre. And it's been going on now for, well, almost 60 years when we get to 2028. I mean, that's a
Mm-hmm.
long time to hold that particular area. But like I said, when you have something that zombies were a thing, he's just the one that made it connect with people. That this is what a zombie is. These are the rules for zombies, and it worked. Kind of like the same thing, with slasher movies. Slasher movies had their rules.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I bring that up because I know the new Scream movie came out.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, listen up, guys. I'm going to cut this short because, as you can tell, I'm taking two Ricolas and my voice is still hoarse as hell. And I don't really want to try and do two more movies. So we'll pick up next week. Everybody, peace out. Have fun. Oh, nice to see you, Bot. You came in at the tail end.
Sorry you missed the show, sucker.
Sucks to be you, bitch.
See you on the 12th and never.
The price is wrong, bitch.